I did have a question for you though. Do you ever think we're going to get to a point where there's content fatigue? Meaning we're investing so much in building personal brands and creating this video content, but there's so much of it now, and there's so much,
Yeah.
so much advice. I mean, we think about we scroll down our feed, how many posts we see of recruiters telling candidates how to format their resume, how to, build a LinkedIn profile. Do you ever think we're going to get to a point where we start to move away from it and move back to more of the old practices, or maybe the focus shifts to how do we just get people offline?
Yeah. And I think, I mean, there's always a potential for that, but I think also like next time, this is a big test. And this was like really eye-opening for me. Like, I'm sure your feed is filled with lots of recruiters with lots of opinions. My feed is too. But what next time you're on a call with like a candidate, it's like, hey, can you share, or even like one of your employees, just be like, hey, can I just see what your LinkedIn newsfeed looks like? I promise you, it does not look like your newsfeed.
Right. Exactly.
Like, and I have to think about this a lot because it's like, in the world that I'm trying to compete in, there's a million people trying to sell content services, right? Like, I know a lot of them on LinkedIn, but also I know a lot on TikTok now as well. So I know a lot of people who are creating content. So sometimes it can feel like it's really small, but like I think of the other week, I was talking to my neighbor's daughter, and she does like dumpster diving for like antiques or whatever. And I was like, oh yeah, Gary Vee does that. He's got like the dumpster diving thing. She's like, who's Gary Vee? And I'm like, and so then it's
what rock are you sleeping under?
Exactly. And so I think like that's the thing, is like not even people consume content in different ways. And like I think like LinkedIn, it can feel really, really small. But again, we all know who Justin Welsh is. Just ask like a couple people who like aren't really that into LinkedIn. But like, you know who Justin Welsh is? They're like, who?
Oh, right? Yeah, they won't know.
Right.
And the guy's got a massive business, but it's not like, it's not like he's world famous necessarily. So I think that's where it's like this. I don't know. I think that's it feels like there's a lot of content out there, but it isn't. And I don't see people slowing down with like the consumption of it unless there's a massive shift culturally. And we just all kind of go, you know what? Like, we're just done with like,
this isn't good for us.
So I got,
which could happen and probably should happen actually.
To Andrew's question, like I experienced this myself like a few months back. I was spitting out resume tips and job seeking tips like on the daily, right? And I was scrolling my feed, and I'm seeing all the competition. I'm seeing all the recruiters because we are connected to thousands of them. And I was going to stop. And I was speaking to one of my friends, and I told her, I was like, I think I'm going to stop talking about job seeking and career growth, and I'm just going to talk about something else. And she said, why? And I was like, all the competition. I feel like I'm in a room with 1,000 people. And she said, but Daryl, like, you're one of the few recruiters on my feed. To that exact point, she's like, I have maybe half a dozen recruiters / content creators that talk about job seeking. And so to your point, Joel, like, I take a step back and think, just because I'm connected to thousands of people in my niche that are talking about similar things, to our audience, it's different for them.
It is, and it's like, it's again, it can just feel at times like it's it's a really small world on social media, but it's like everybody's feed is curated differently, like. And one of the coolest thing actually is like I have a lot of friends, like just personal friends who like I had someone reach out to me this week. They're like, hey, I know you charge for your service, but like, can I buy you lunch just to just talk about some
to pick your brain
stuff? Yeah, and I'm like, all right, yeah, $200. You're right. I'm just like everyone else.
Are we going to a steakhouse?
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, food dinner's on you. But it's another one of my friends recently. He came over and we just traded services. Like, he does concrete. He just gave me a quote for like a driveway that I'm looking to get done. I did his resume, and it was hilarious. Like, I made it really simple because it's concrete superintendent, and he's got like, I'm highly dependable. I'm like, look, no one cares. Like, you're doing $20 million jobs. That's dependable enough. Right. And so he just wrote that on his resume, and then he got 5 callbacks the next day. And I think
there you go.
This is where it's like, And I've had people like friends just be like, "Hey, that was super helpful. Like, I just listened to your content and I got a job," you know. And I get that a lot more on TikTok because that's where a lot of my job seeker content is. But at the end of the day, if like someone doesn't like you, they just unfollow you, right? It's not like they're like chained to the computer, like with all I can see is Joel. It's like just I'm sure there's plenty of people that have muted me, don't follow my content as regularly, and that's fine. But you know, I think just in our world in particular, like it is easy to think that. So I would just encourage you and just be like, as long as the content's valuable and you believe in what you're saying and you genuinely want to help people, you know, the people I really feel bad for, honestly, are like people who are buying followers on platforms. And like, I just know, I know people who sell services. I've even noticed it on Instagram because I just go through and I'm like, you got 1,500 likes. Like this content is just garbage. And then you look through the followers and it's like just people profiles with 3 followers or like they're just bots. And it's just like, that was never my intention. It was just all organic. And it's like, yes, I have to manage the views going up and down. Like it takes a toll on you because it's like, that's what you measure performance by. But on the whole, like it's the relationships, it's what you do offline. Trust me on this, big lesson is like, if you do not produce like results, like you will never get any new clients. Doesn't matter how good your online presence is. You know,
exactly.
So that, you know, that's kind of like my thought with a lot of this stuff too. And I've had to learn a lot of lessons and I've spent probably too much time, right? But that's why I made a transition. I was like, you know what, like I'm passionate about the recruitment industry because I love the conversation. And I think it's just crazy how recruiting and hiring works. But you know, I really enjoy brand marketing and like getting the name out there, social media platforms. And, you know, and I think there's partnerships there between recruitment and marketing. So it's great that we get to work together. But the best recruiters I know are the ones who like, they just get results. They know the business and they've got strong networks, right?
Best ones you know, right here, Joe. They're right here.
Right here.
That's funny.
Well, I mean, look at me. I had Andrew on the podcast recently, and it was great, you know. And it's like Andrew's got like internal agency. You've seen both sides of the equation, and it's funny because sometimes like I get really insecure because I'm like, I wasn't the greatest recruiter, like I was for a period of time, but then honestly, once I started creating social media, like I just got so into this idea of creating funnels, you know, and then I bounced around a little bit, so I didn't get to necessarily see like the full funnel in one company. But a lot of great recruiters I know who are agency owners, one in particular who I really look up to, like Joe Mullings. If you ever see his content's next level, and he's built a big agency and he's really highly respected. You know, that's why I tell people like I'm not the model you should follow. But at least I know a lot of what works and what doesn't work and can just get you on the right path to where you're staying consistent with it, you know?
Yeah, 100%.
Love that.